Welcome to the Wayne Public Library's virtual author chat. My guest today is Natalie Sanchez. Natalie has been teaching in Passaic, New Jersey for the past decade. She has two master's degrees in special education and history. In her spare time, Natalie enjoys binge watching Netflix, working out, and spending time with friends and family. She has traveled to over 40 countries and plans to continue traveling as much as possible. Natalie's insatiable appetite and passion for food have allowed her to try every cuisine imaginable, which usually ends with a happy food dance. In
Mhm.
writing her debut picture book, Timmy's Great Play, Natalie's end goal is to remind everyone that we all face obstacles in life, and no matter what your status is, you can make a difference. Welcome, Natalie. Please tell us a little more about yourself and about your picture book.
Okay. Um, so as mentioned in the little quick bio, I have been teaching in Passaic for 10 years. I want to go maybe 11 years now. Um, but yeah, I basically grew up close to Passaic in Patterson. Went basically all my education went to Catholic school in Patterson, high school, Patterson Catholic. Um, Raised by a single mom who tried her very best to do everything possible. But yeah, I do tend to travel a lot, so that I'm excited to talk about. That's actually one of my favorite things to do, and besides eating. Um, but yeah, any other questions? I'm sorry, you said what
Uh,
inspired me
Tell us
more.
a little bit about the picture book, about Timmy's Great Play.
Okay, well, it's Timmy's great plan.
Oh, I am so sorry. I apologize.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So it's actually one of my first book. I'm in the process of writing a second book, not really related to Timmy, but it was inspired by many years ago. I used to actually teach a class called Children's Stories, and in that class, I basically did step by step with my students, learning how to write a book, eventually publish a book. And throughout that, I'm like, I always wanted to write my own book. Let me, one day, start writing my own children's book. And that's kind of how Timmy's Great Plan kind of began.
Okay. I do apologize. I hope I wrote it correctly. And it was just in my bio that I got it wrong. But we do own a copy now at the library for any adult or child to borrow. Um, so what you said you had a class and that inspired you. Was there any child or it was just working with the children that inspired you to write?
A little bit of both. I saw how excited my students were writing a book and actually seeing the process and creating their characters. We actually tried, I think, 3 times to do like a competition. So I just always found like, anyone who always tell me, well, how did you start writing a book? Well, it was a long process. It's not like from one day to another. I'm like, poof, I just decided to write a book. It was like a journey from step by step that kind of inspired me to write this book for Timmy's Great Plan.
And beyond the blurb on the cover, is there anything else you could tell us about the book? Um,
Yeah, so just from feedback from, students, kids who read my book, even adults, I found it that they thought it was very, very unique in the sense that, there wasn't any books about dinosaurs who were in special needs, in this case, in a wheelchair. So, they thought that Timmy's Great Plan was very touching, talking about, in the book, it discusses like a little bit bullying, dinosaurs not accepting Timmy because he's in a wheelchair, him going through challenges because of his disability. So I got a lot of positive reviews, a lot of kids asking questions as far as, why is he in a wheelchair? So, I did get a lot of, I actually had a teacher read my book in their class, and the kids were pretty excited about, how he was going to overcome his challenges being in a wheelchair. How is he going to save the day?
Okay.
So
That was my next question is have you read it or has anyone read it for their class? And what age group do you kind of think it's most appropriate for? Um,
so I actually had a kindergarten teacher read my book to the kids as like a little story time. But I would say probably it could be any ages, honestly. But if I would probably say maybe between first grade to maybe third or fourth grade. So I'm not sure exactly what's the age gap. I guess like from sixth grade, 6 years old to maybe like 10.
I was going to say, I read it, and the whole section on Pangea and the extinction, and that I thought, okay, this is definitely for slightly older child to understand, because I mean those are like
Yeah.
really interesting concepts. Not that you can't introduce it to children like as early as kindergarten, but to kind of understand and to ask the questions about dinosaurs and about extinction. Um, so that was really interesting and really unique to me. I don't think I ever read my child a book with that much information about dinosaurs and extinction and how the world was at the time. Um,
Yeah, I try my best to kind of add a little bit of science, a little bit of, just more educational. So, my colleague who did read the book in the kindergarten class, she did explain that as like, oh, one day, and that brought more questions, for students to ask, So that was also something that was also like a learning moment to kind of teach about.
Absolutely. You dedicated the book to your mom. Did your mom inspire you to start writing?
She didn't, but my mom is always my inspiration for everything. So, like I said, I grew up, with just my mom, and my mom always been like my biggest support at everything, So there's nothing I wouldn't do for her, basically. So my mom is everything for me. She's like my rock. So I wanted to take this moment to, kind of acknowledge her that, despite her not having an education and being an immigrant, that, she did inspire me to be who I am.
It's wonderful. That's great. That's great to hear. Um, how long have you been writing? Was it something that a lifelong, you kept journals, or was it just working with the children that developed the
Yeah,
story?
I want to say working with the children. Kind of I kind of branch out from that. As a kid, I've always loved reading, and so I did have few diaries, but nothing like, oh, I'm gonna create a story. It was really at the moment when I was teaching and seeing how excited my students were. I'm like, it made me more excited. I'm like, oh, maybe I should do it too.
Yes. Writing. So this is your first and only book, or have you been published in other like media genres? Um,
Um, so I actually just finished publishing another kind of mini book. It's more like an interactive book called All About Me. It's kind of like a book for your significant other where you can write little blurbs about them and add pictures, crosswords. So it's completely a little bit off topic than, writing a children's book.
okay. Very interesting. That's very interesting. Great. Um, and what would you say is the most difficult part about writing?
Um, I guess just putting it all in one paper because I had so many ideas. I started off from Timmy having a friend, and I'm like, no, I can't add that. Like, so I guess like just trying to put all my ideas in just one page and kind of minimizing, what should be cut off, what I should not add. Can I add this? So it was just, putting all my imagination in one story. I think that was probably the toughest. Probably took me like 3 months to be like, okay, I'm happy with this right now.
Okay. Um, and you mentioned a new book. Is it a sequel? Is this like a sequel to this, or is it a whole nother idea, another
No,
story?
it's just a new idea. It's kind of almost like a diary. Yeah.
Okay.
An interactive diary.
Oh, do you see a sequel to this? Because I mean, they did, get to a different area. I won't ruin the story for the children.
I mean, I am. I do plan to write a sequel for Timmy's Great Plan. But at the moment, I'm just trying to concentrate in this particular book, and before I start branching out, and then thinking about, well, okay, what's going to be now the next sequel? What story is Timmy
Okay.
going to have?
Okay. And what was your publishing journey? How long did it take you to write? How long did it take you to publish it? Um,
Okay, so that was interesting because I did it as a self-publisher, and I didn't know anyone who wrote a book. So I literally had to do lots and lots of research, from planning, okay, well, what's the genre, age group, how many words is supposed to have in the book, then going, okay, well, developing my characters, finding an illustrator of my choice that I felt like, had the same ideas that I did, going through that process with my illustrator, proving pictures to finally finding someone to, I guess, put it all together. I'm not sure exactly what's the name of it. I can't think about it right now at the moment, but, and then publishing. Okay, where am I going to publish this book? So it was a journey, lots of research, a lot of information. So now I'm like, okay, I got this. So I actually have other friends of mine, and even just random strangers, when they find out I wrote a book, now they ask me questions. I'm like, oh, well, I can tell you now, because I went through it, so that was probably a big journey too. Just that whole, go ahead.
and how you self-published? Was it through any of the like through Amazon, through their
Mhm.
publishing? Okay.
I published through KDP from Amazon, and then I did Ingram Sparks.
Okay.
So it's more for, like, a large distributor. So I did both of them.
Okay. And you mentioned the illustrator. How hard was it to find an illustrator? Like, what? I don't even know how to begin that search. So,
Okay, so it wasn't hard. It just depends on your budget, how much you want to spend. So I went to a website called Fiverr, and they have lots of freelancers. So my illustrator, I think I'm not sure exactly. Oh, he was from Morocco. So yeah, so it really depends on how much you're willing to spend. I actually have a, a friend of mine's, her daughter, um, is a writer. And so I've been talking with the daughter and my friend, and, they've been using Fiverr to look for an illustrator. They're actually looking for one right now at the moment.
it's
So
great. It's great that you're able to like provide, friends with some of the information of how you were able to find a publisher, figure out how to publish, word count, Illustrator. That's great. That's great. It's really on
yeah,
your
I'm
own.
like,
That's pretty impressive.
yeah, I'm spreading all the knowledge. I'm like, yes,
Yeah,
whatever you want to know, just I'll tell you exactly how I did it, whether you want to do it my way or not. But
that's wonderful. I mean, um, I've done a bunch of these and of these author chats, and a lot of people belong to groups, to author groups, to writers groups. Even I did do another children's author last summer, and she participated in the children's book, and so that was the connection to illustrators and stuff. So it's interesting to find out a different way because not
yeah,
everybody has the time or the ability, but they want to do it and they have the
yeah.
creativity to do it.
Well, because of COVID, I had a lot of time on my hands, and that actually, kind of made it happen. I was able to use my free time and say, okay, what do I want to accomplish? Can I write this book? Let me try. And so, I would have never thought I was going to write a book, but I did it. So, I always push it on anyone. Like, I always have people, oh, I want to write a book one day. I'm like, you can do it. Like, there's nothing stopping you. You can absolutely do it.
I agree. In today's world, I think the ability is there. If you have the creativity and you have the story in your head, getting it down and getting it out to the world is a lot easier. And, um,
Yeah.
yeah. And what advice would you give to a new writer that's just starting out? Obviously, we've kind of covered that. You have all this information, but if there's one piece of advice that you learned, um, is there anything one thing in particular?
Let's see, word of advice. I would definitely, you know, tell them to do your research because anyone can write a book. That's true. But you also have to make sure that you follow the guidelines of categories and word counts because it does get a little bit specific. But again, because everything is so easy to you just simply go on Google and you can research that. It's easy. So in the meantime, like I always just tell, like, if you want to write a book, all you have to do is just research, find all the information is right there if you have the patience and are willing to actually, go through those steps to write a book.
That is true. And your background in education, we established that helped. What about background? You have a degree in history. Can I ask what area of specialty in history? What time period?
Um, yeah, I currently teach seventh grade world history,
Okay.
but I've always also taught like U.S. history, actually teaching that for several years.
Okay. And when you study, is your degree in any particular area of history or just
No,
no?
just nothing in specific, just history in general. You could,
Okay. No, I
yeah.
asked because I was a history major at one point too in graduate school, and it was medieval history. So that's the reason
Oh
I
no,
asked.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I didn't have any specific. It's weird too because I feel like I taught like fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh, at whatever is the curriculum. Like it's what I'm currently teaching. So
Okay.
not a.
Not anything. And did that, well, you said the science with the Pangea and the dinosaurs, you added a bit of the science into Timmy's story. Is there um anything else? Like, did you feel like there was a different category, like any of the history? I mean, I guess it was also history, not just the science.
Yeah, yeah, I just feel like it was a combination of history, science. Just a book about just acknowledging others' uniqueness.
Yes.
But I try to add like the moral, the story. Like I mean, like anybody can be different, unique in their own special ways. So.
Absolutely. And then, according to your bio, you have traveled to many countries and tasted many cuisines. Do you have a favorite country you visited or a food that you've tasted?
Um, Honestly, I from the top of my head, I want to say maybe Turkey is one of my favorite countries that I visited so far. A few years back, but yeah, Turkey was probably like my top list, and maybe Singapore.
Oh, wow. Very exotic. Very exotic.
Yeah.
And foods that you
Oh,
tasted?
the it's so funny because I always tell my kids, I'm like, I will eat anything, as long as it's cooked, I can probably do that. So let's see, I remember when I went to Iceland, I had whale. Oh my God, I'm trying to think. What's the most recent thing I've had? Um, when I went to Ecuador, I had cuy. I'm not sure if you're familiar
Oh,
with that.
yeah. I have family that's Ecuadorian. They've shown me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, can I really do that? And I'm just like, you know what, let me try, So yeah, I like to I guess not sure because of me being a history teacher, but I just love to immerse myself in their culture. And so I'm willing to try anything because I am a big foodie. I do love food. So, as long as it doesn't have a head and it's not looking at me and it's cooked, I will try it for the most part.
COVID has kept us from going far and wide. Uh, when everything is lifted and you can travel, where do you see yourself going? Or maybe
Well,
you
I
have.
I just I've actually traveled this year too. I went to I think four countries. I went to Nicaragua, Curacao.
Mhm.
And I can't even think. Oh well, I mean, I went in states. I just came back from Colorado. Went to Tennessee. So I actually have a trip soon coming up in April for spring break, going to Peru, which I'm super excited for that.
I've
Super
been,
excited for
I've
that.
been, and it's very nice.
Yeah,
My-
I'm like planning. I'm like, oh, I'm going to land in Cusco, so I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go there. It's been like one of my top destinations that I've been wanting to go and try their food. So
The food is good. The food is good. The architecture, what they were able to accomplish at that, in those times, it's pretty
I
impressive.
know. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to go. Yeah.
Do you see maybe writing books about, different, a child traveling through different countries, or a protagonist, it doesn't even have to be a child, traveling through different countries, maybe
I
in the
mean, actually, that would be a really good idea. That's actually a pretty good idea.
future.
Yeah, didn't think about that, but maybe I am now.
All right. I'm glad I gave you the idea. Well, Natalie, it's been wonderful chatting with you. And I thank you so much. And then we look forward to your next book, be it Timmy or any other characters that you uh, put out, a picture book, or for adults too. Thank you again for joining us. And, it's always great to meet a local author. As you know, I went to you. I'm like, you're one of the few that I've like found, through one of my coworkers. And so I thank you for agreeing to participate and share your publishing journey and your book with us.
No, I appreciate it. I was excited for this interview.
Okay.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
Thank you again, and have a wonderful rest of the year.
You too. Be safe.
You too.